model how to find the characteristics of fairy tales by creating a graphic organizer. The graphic organizer will have the definitions of fairy tales and the characteristics of fairy tales. The definition of fairy tales is a make-believe story written for children. The characteristics of fairy tales that will be included on the graphic organizer are magic, good, evil, story that begins with once upon a time, story that ends with lived happily ever after, and magical characters. I may begin the lesson by saying to the students, today we are going to learn more on the characteristics of fairy tales. I noticed some of you had a hard time understanding the anchor chart that I created in the last lesson over characteristics of fairy tales. So today I thought we could use a graphic organizer maybe to help explain better. Then I'll begin creating the graphic organizer. In the middle of the graphic organizer, I will write fairy tales with the definition written under fairy tales. Then I'll branch out and write all the characteristics of fairy tales. Lastly, as we read the story, Beauty and the Beast, I will place the pictures that represent the characteristics that were found in the story and place them next to the word of the characteristic of fairy tale. For instance, I will place a picture of the enchantress turning the prince into a hideous beast next to the word magic. I will explain to the students that when a book has magic in the story, that means it is a characteristic of fairy tales. This will help to reteach the students what the characteristics of fairy tale are. But since every student learns differently, I'll be teaching it in a different way other than using an anchor chart to explain the lesson for those children that did not understand when I explained the lesson using an anchor chart. After reading the story, Beauty and the Beast, I will ask the students the following questions. What are fairy tales? What are some characteristics of fairy tales that were in the story? How would you know that that is a characteristic of fairy tales? Then I will have the students work in groups of 3 to either write or draw the characteristics that they found in the story, Snow White in the 7th drawer, or the story Sleeping Beauty. I will provide the students with a graphic organizer, or the students can use a poster board, like I did during the lesson, to write or draw the characteristics of fairy tales that they found from the story. In the middle circle, or in the middle of the poster board, the students will write fairy tales. Then in the other circles, or around the word fairy tales, they will write or draw the characteristics of fairy tales that they have found in the story. Lastly, the group will share their graphic organizer or poster with the class to display their work. The teacher should ask, while students are working, what do you notice about the beginning of the story? What do you call a story that ends with happily ever after? What is a characteristic of fairy tales from the story?